Have you ever noticed that some people cry during small emotional moments? A sad movie, a simple argument, a meaningful memory, or even when someone speaks to them with kindness, while other people remain emotionally unaffected? Most society labels emotional people as weak, sensitive, or unstable. But psychology shows something much deeper. Crying easily is often connected to how the brain processes emotion, empathy, stress, and social experience, and in many cases, people who cry easily are not emotionally weak, they are emotionally responsive. Their nervous system reacts more intensely to emotional stimulation, and this changes the way they experience the world. From a neurological perspective, crying is connected to the limbic system, especially the amygdala and anterior cingulate cortex. These regions process emotional meaning, emotional memory, and social pain. Some individuals naturally have higher emotional sensitivity, which means their brain reacts more strongly to emotional information. This is why certain people feel things deeply, even when others barely react. For example, one person hears a sad story and moves on. Another person keeps thinking about it for hours. Their brain continues emotionally processing the experience long. After the moment ends, this is often linked to empathy. People who cry easily usually absorb emotional signals more intensely. They notice tone, facial expressions, emotional tension, and hidden sadness. Quickly, psychologists sometimes refer to this as high emotional attunement. Their brain constantly scans emotional environments deeply, and because of this, their emotional reactions become stronger. This is why emotionally sensitive people often feel exhausted after conflict crowds or emotionally intense situations. Their nervous system is processing more information than most people realize. Another important factor is stress accumulation. Many people who cry easily are not reacting only to the current moment. They are reacting to emotional overload built over time. Sometimes crying during a small event is not about that event at all. It is the nervous system finally releasing pressure. This is why people often say, "I don't even know why I'm crying," because emotionally, the brain stores tension long before the body releases. Crying becomes a biological reset mechanism. Research shows emotional tears actually contain stress hormones and neurochemicals connected to emotional regulation, which means crying is not only emotional expression, it is also nervous system regulation. Another reason some people cry easily is childhood conditioning. Children who grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments often develop heightened emotional awareness. Their brain learns to constantly monitor emotional shifts in others. They become highly sensitive to disappointment, rejection, tone changes, and emotional tension. This sensitivity often continues into adulthood, and this creates adults who react emotionally very quickly, not because they are irrational, but because their nervous system was trained to stay emotionally alert. There is also the issue of emotional suppression. Ironically, people who appear emotionally strong for long periods often cry unexpectedly later because emotions that are constantly controlled do not disappear. They accumulate internally. Eventually, the nervous system reaches emotional saturation, and even small triggers can release overwhelming emotion. This is why highly responsible people, caregivers, or emotionally supportive individuals sometimes cry alone in silence. Their emotional energy has been overloaded for too long. Social psychology also plays a major role. Society often rewards emotional control and punishes visible vulnerability. Especially for men, many people are taught from childhood that crying equals weakness. So emotionally sensitive individuals often feel ashamed of their reactions. They apologize for crying, hide their emotions, or feel embarrassed afterward. But suppressing emotion does not remove emotional sensitivity. It only disconnects people from understanding it. Another interesting psychological observation is that people who cry easily are often highly reflective thinkers. They spend more time analyzing meaning relationships, memories, and emotional experiences. Their brain processes events deeply instead of superficially. This creates stronger emotional reactions because experiences carry more psychological weight. For example, a simple goodbye may not feel simple to them. Their brain connects it to memory, attachment loss, time, and emotional meaning all at once. This deeper emotional processing intensifies emotional response. There is also a strong connection between crying and emotional authenticity. Many emotionally sensitive people struggle to fake emotions. Their internal emotional state naturally appears externally, which is why they often appear genuine, honest, and emotionally transparent. Their nervous system expresses emotion openly rather than filtering it completely from an evolutionary perspective. Crying also functions as social communication. Tears signal vulnerability, emotional need, and trust. Humans evolved as social beings, which means emotional expression, helped strengthen social bonding and support. Psychologists believe emotional tears increase empathy responses in others, which is why seeing someone cry often emotionally affects people nearby. However, emotionally sensitive individuals often misunderstand themselves. They assume their reactions mean weakness, instability, or lack of control. But emotional sensitivity is not automatically dysfunction. In many cases, it is connected to higher empathy, deeper emotional awareness, and stronger interpersonal processing. Of course, extreme emotional sensitivity can become unhealthy when combined with anxiety, trauma, or emotional dysregulation. If someone feels emotionally overwhelmed constantly, it may reflect nervous system exhaustion, unresolved stress, or mental health struggles. But normal emotional expression itself is not weakness. In fact, many emotionally intelligent people cry easily because they remain emotionally connected instead of emotionally numb. And this is an important distinction. Modern culture often mistakes emotional numbness for strength, but numbness is not emotional mastery. Sometimes it is emotional shutdown. Real emotional strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to experience emotion without losing yourself inside it. This is why many psychologically healthy people still cry. They simply allow emotion to move through them naturally, instead of fighting it constantly. Another common observation is that people who cry easily often care deeply about others. They become emotionally affected by injustice, suffering, rejection, or emotional pain. Quickly, their empathy system activates intensely, which is why emotionally sensitive people are often drawn toward caregiving, creativity, psychology, art, music, or emotionally meaningful work because they naturally experience emotional depth more intensely than average. There is also a biological difference in emotional responsiveness, hormonal activity, stress regulation, genetics, sleep quality, and nervous system sensitivity all influence emotional expression, which means emotional sensitivity is not purely personality, it is also biological. This explains why some people cry more during periods of stress, burnout, exhaustion, or emotional overwhelm. Their nervous system becomes more reactive under pressure. And this is why emotional sensitivity should not automatically be judged negatively because sensitivity itself is neutral. What matters is whether someone understands how to regulate it. When emotionally sensitive people learn emotional regulation instead of emotional suppression, they often become highly emotionally intelligent individuals. They understand, people deeply recognize emotional patterns quickly and build stronger emotional connections because their sensitivity becomes awareness rather than weakness. And perhaps the most misunderstood part of emotional people is this: many of them are not weak because they cry. Many of them cry because they have stayed strong for too long, because emotionally sensitive people often absorb more emotional pressure than others realize, and eventually the body releases what the mind can no longer carry, silently. In the end, crying is not proof that someone is fragile sometimes. It is proof that they are emotionally alive, because people who cry easily are often experiencing the world with deeper emotional intensity. They feel more, process more, notice more, and carry more internally than most people ever see. And in a world that constantly teaches people to disconnect from emotion, remaining emotionally connected may actually be one of the strongest things a person can do.